Hello everyone, this is Carlos with the OPR Trading Group. I wanted to go over a video of a trade that we took today, and also wanted to look at the day and how it was setting up and how to use footprints in conjunction with context and how to take a trade. Going over, this is for October 10th of 2023. So first, just looking at the daily structure and how we were setting up, we can see that we had quite a few bullish days getting into this day, including a gap down due to the conflict that's going on right now between Israel and Palestine. And as we finished Monday in the afternoon, we sort of consolidated in this area for quite a little while between 78 and roughly 43.66. So what we're looking for is, ideally, we want to see a breakout above this level or a failed breakout for a potential short, and the same thing for this area, right? We either want to see a fake breakdown of this area or of a continuation of this area targeting other levels below that, right? So we're just looking for a move as traders, right? We're not necessarily looking for you have like a hypothesis of whether it's going to go up or it's going to go down. We're just more interested, okay, is the market going to move, and how can I get in into potentially a big move without risking too much money, right? So as we're looking for that day, we're looking for this particular levels that we were setting up and down. Now, I will admit that one of my ideas in the morning, what I wanted to see was I wanted to see this 66.25 get taken out. And the reason why is because we had this sort of like this equal low from, you can see 2 o'clock in the morning. Sorry if the time is a little bit small there, but roughly in this area from 2 o'clock in the morning and then 8 a.m. This is Eastern time. And you can see there were relatively equal lows. I wanted to see the market push down a little bit below that, sort of like sell off into this area, and then try to look for a long setup here to take us higher. I didn't necessarily want to take it here because we had resistance here, and so I figure if we take it in this area, we potentially could get trapped here and then the market could return. So that was my idea. It didn't play out, but that's okay. It just, we have to have ideas and plan our trades before they start happening, before they're developing, right? So that we can take action when it gets there. Not every trade setup is going to work. Not every trade setup is going to set up for us the way that we would like it to. So with that said, one thing that we were noticing in the morning was that the volume was not very heavy. It was rather light after the open. And one of the things that I was looking at was, well, we did have a couple of days where we were bullish. You know, are we going to continue to do this? Maybe we just consolidate for a little while, which typically does tend to happen. You have a big move, then the market wants to consolidate. So we weren't seeing that much volume, but once we saw this particular ranges, I thought, okay, well, something that could happen, and we mentioned this when we were in the Discord live. Something that can happen is we trap one way or the other, meaning that we probably break out of one of these levels, and then we may go completely the other way. And that's kind of what we did. We sort of sold off into this area after the open. The open was roughly in this candle. And as you can see, we trapped anybody who shorted here or here, and then the market just decided to continue to go the other way. So this wasn't a bad setup. I just wanted to see if it would test a little bit lower, but this is okay. So one thing that we notice is that when you have the big consolidation for a while, the market then tends to go either one way or the other. And it's a matter of trying to position yourself correctly to see if you go with the winning side, right? So now, one of the things that we want to do right now is I want to go and look at this particular area in the footprints using delta footprints. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this over here. And we have this here in the morning. So as you can see, this is the 8 o'clock low of 66 in this area. And this is the consolidation that we were seeing in the morning of today. A couple of things to note, right? The way I have my footprint set up is on the left side of my footprints. You're going to see in the gray area, that's volume. So all it's doing is taking the bids and the ask over normal footprint, and it's putting them both on the left side. It's adding them up and it's putting them both on the left side. Because for the bids and the ask, I'm interested in just how much volume there is. And on the right side of that, what it's doing is it's taking the delta between the bids and the ask. It's just a preference that I have. You can look at regular footprints as well, but for me, I feel like this kind of does the math for me already. So for example, if we were to study one of these, let me use this to erase it. If we study one of these, let's pick this one here, right in here. What we're looking at here again on the left is all the volume that was traded by price. And then if you notice this green delta here, what it's telling you is that we have more asks than bids for these, right? So whatever the volume was, so for example, this one was 1,000, we had 200 more asks than bids. So you can see that it quickly gives me the math and it tells me, okay, do we have more bids? Do we have more asks? And where exactly do we have that? Same thing down here, but down here we have more bids than ask, with the exception of this one and this one, right? But you can see that if we have more bids than asks, bids typically means more shorts, aggressive shorts, and ask means more aggressive buyers, right? So they're hitting the ask, they want to see the market move higher. You'll see that on the footprints. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always going to happen. It has to be with context, and I'm going to go over that later as to how to really translate that or interpret that. So as you can see, the one thing that we can sort of suggest from this information is that the buyers are asking in this area and they're pushing the price. Should they win and should the market move higher, what you want to see now is this area get defended. And that's kind of what we did, right? If we look at the market in the pre-market, I'm just going to put a rectangle here in this area. Excuse me. You're going to see what the market did. This is in the pre-market. This is around 8:13 in the morning. And you can see how they held the price in this area. It doesn't always do this sort of perfectly, but this is one of those cases where you can see where the buyers were located. And again, not only do you have the green delta, or the positive delta, let's call it, but you also have a lot of volume in the area, which is significant. So you can see how both of these things play a part in this. So we did notice that we were taking that. I did want to see this get taken down though and have the buyers come up here. But again, that's what I was saying, that sometimes you don't get the idea exactly as you want it to. So another thing to point out here is that when we look at these candles in this area, you can see how the volume wasn't really that high, with the exception maybe this candle and then this candle, which is sort of the breakout candle or the one that started it. But you can see that the other candles, the volume was sort of low, and it sort of turned me off a little bit for taking a trade. So I was being a little bit patient and didn't take anything, which again, that's okay, right? It's our trades. You kind of want to own the trade. So if you don't feel comfortable taking a trade, you don't have to. That's the beauty of trading. So what we did notice is that it kept holding this level, and shorts really didn't try to hit the bids that much, with maybe the exception in this area and maybe a little bit here, but they weren't really that aggressive as the longs were, right? As the people that were hitting the ask. So they really couldn't push it down. They really couldn't accept a price lower. What you want to see is when you see the shorts in this side and then you see the shorts pounding this in this area, you want to see this get a little bit heavier, and then you want to see them accept a price lower and then continue. You're going to see an example of this in a minute here. Okay, so once we see that, what comes after that is just really a squeeze that happened after what could have been just accumulation in this area. Low volume across the board. However, if you combine all of this, there was definitely some accumulation here to take the market higher. And all that we're doing was basically, as people were selling into this, whoever were the big players were probably taking and absorbing all of that selling to push the market higher. And exactly as what we did, we kept pushing up. One of the things to point out here is that once we push through this level, you can see that there really isn't that much selling going on. After it pushes the market up, there is more buying. There's two reasons for this, right? Once we break out of this level, a lot of the shorts that shorted in this area, they have to cover. That's going to cause them to have to buy at the ask and it's gonna look like a buy. So it's gonna push the market higher, short squeeze kind of thing, right? Very typical of that. And then also the folks that are buying the breakout, they're also going to hit the ask. And then all you're going to see here is really just buying, right? So most of this stuff is green. Now, one of the things that you want to be very careful of is just because you see selling coming in, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to jump in right away. You have to look at this with context. Is this a good area for a short? And also, where do I want to short? If you're just shorting randomly because you start seeing, you know, the bids being aggressive, and you see the sea of red, it's gonna screw you more times than not. Again, it should be used more with context. So what we always see here is just, again, more buying. And in this particular candle, if we just focus on this one, what we see is just some selling here, but this could be covering that was happening as the price moved up. You know, someone maybe took the first a partial, maybe they're taking a scalp, and they're taking a partial here roughly in the 85, 86 area. And again, same thing that we see here. Yes, I'm sure some people did try to aggressively short this. Some people were probably jumping in. And what typically happens when they do this is then they have to cover roughly quickly, and it's going to create more of a squeeze, and it's going to push the market a little bit higher. So you're always going to have that, right? You're going to have some folks that are shorting, and they're going to have to cover. And some of that you're going to see in the footprint, because some of them are going to have to do it in the market order because they're trying to do it very quickly to get out. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about too is once you see this, if you fail to take the trade, don't chase it, right? If you do find an entry because of the footprints, maybe this is the type of trade that you like for example, after we break out, you're looking for an area to get in roughly in here. Maybe you're waiting for a pullback into these areas. It's okay as long as you manage your risk and you're not trying like 15 different times, and maybe 15 times you get wicked out. Because what could happen here is that once we break out, we may pull back, and then the market then continues. This is the one thing about trading, is that you know, you can get sort of tricked into that because you see this type of trade happen often, and then what will happen is that your mindset then will trick you to go, well, the last time it broke out, it just kept ripping, it kept going, and I wasn't in. I could just take it here. I'll risk a little bit more on the trade, or I'll add on the trade. It's the wrong mindset. If you missed a trade, you missed a trade. It's okay to miss trades. You don't have to take all of them. And it doesn't matter if it was the 200-point move. It really doesn't. Trading is more about managing your risk and catching the opportunity and having the plan already set up for you, so that you can take the trade. Okay, so what we see here is if you try to short it, maybe you had a level here, maybe a level of resistance, maybe you had a supply zone, whatever the case was. If you continue to do that, it will probably hurt you more times than not. You really want to get some type of confirmation. So as we kept moving higher for most of the days, we did do a little bit of a pullback here. This is a place where also on the footprint side, you may get a little bit tricked. You can see how we have some selling in this area. We did have other selling before, but then now we've accepted below this candle, and we have more selling coming up, or coming down I should say. But then immediately it doesn't get accepted from this level, and then it pushes higher. This is the one small pullback in the morning, 10:38. It was like roughly about an hour after the breakout. Okay, this is not strong enough either. If you look at the delta, I mean, it's 300, where we already had way more delta on the positive side before that. They have to get a little bit heavier. And also, this may not have been the right move as we continue to move higher, and we weren't showing any signs of slowdown. So I'll show you a little bit later of some of the other information you can use to take this trade if you are planning for a short. So again, just continue to squeeze. This wasn't potentially a bad idea to try to get long somewhere in here. If you found once that the shorts were sort of trying to sell, or the people that were already long, they were covering, once you see that they overtake this, potentially try to find a long maybe somewhere in this area. It was a little bit more spread out to me to take the trade here for me personally, but you may find the trade in there. As we continue to move higher for most of the day, I did notice one thing too, that the volume was sort of skipping price after the squeezes, right? So you saw here where the prices kind of skip right through that, and same thing over here. We did sort of correct that as we pulled back. So this is also something to watch out for, right? Is that once we get a squeeze, we see how the market tends to react right after that. You see a little bit of that as well here, how the market tends to react to that to recover that liquidity and then continue to do the move, right? We did see that a little bit later on as well. Right in here and right in here, you can see how the market then pulls back again, recovers some of that liquidity, and then it continues to move higher. Again, this is one of those things where you can get tricked here as well. When you start seeing just red everywhere and you're thinking that the shorts are gonna overtake this, and then the market is gonna start pulling back. Again, there's nothing here that really tells you that the shorts are winning. It's just someone's getting in on the bid and potentially someone's covering. That's all you're really seeing here, because they're not really winning, right? They're just continuing to move the market higher. Well, you have to see a few more things before you look at a reversal. It's got to prove a few more things for you, right? So as we move higher, what we do is we start getting into this level. Now, the short that I particularly took today, I took it at 11.25 price, not 11.25 at the time, but in 11.25, I got short in here. Anywhere here would have been a good short for me specifically, and I'm going to describe why. There were a couple of reasons. One, we consolidated in this area, we pushed out from this area, and then we came back into this area, and what we were doing was we were creating lower highs and lower lows. So to me, it was kind of showing me that the market now wanted to potentially try to reverse. Could this done one of these and they continue to go higher? Absolutely. There's no 100% winning in a trade, but contextually, it was showing me that now the market wanted to pull back some. And if I go back to the chart, I'm going to show you something else that I saw in a second, and I'll come back to this footprint. Let me just move this over here. And roughly we were in this area. So now, and let me just switch colors here. So the other thing that I saw here was we were creating these higher highs, and then now we were creating this lower high with a lower low. So what this told me was that as the market kept moving higher, every single time that I see it that it breaks the high, I anticipate that it's going to try to break the high one more time. But if you notice, every time that it broke the high, it just kept getting weaker. It wasn't a good break, right? It wasn't moving that much more after it broke the high. So it was telling me that buyers were sort of slowing down, and they weren't putting the pressure anymore on the ask than they were. So when I see this, that it cannot break the high, and now we're creating the new lower lows, I'm just looking for an entry for potentially taking a short. Another thing that for me personally, I like to see is this line right here is the 100 EMA on the 1 minute, which in turn is the 20 EMA on the 5 minute. That's really more my interest, but because I like to watch it on the 1 minute, I use the 100 EMA. So what I like to see is I like to see it break out of the 100 EMA and break out or break down from the 100 EMA. So in this case, this was my trade, and as I mentioned, I got in at 11.25, which was roughly right in here. So what I wanted to see is I wanted to see this, and then I wanted to see it break down. I did not want to see it do that, but I'm going to show you where my stop would have been in this area. It was a low risk trade. Now, one thing that I will mention and I will admit is that I did not anticipate that this was going to break down that quickly. I was anticipating more than anything that maybe it slowly breaks down. I could have taken a partial, and then I set my stop at break even for the rest, and then I let it work for potentially the next target, which for me would have been, oops, let me just move this down here. There we go. Sorry about that. So for me, the next target would have been probably somewhere in this pivot in this area right here. I always like to see it take out a previous low. And so if you really think about it, from here to here, this isn't a really big target. more of a scalp somewhere in this area because this was previous resistance, previous support, and the next level would be somewhere in here for my second target. So when we look at that short, that was one of the context things, was the breakdown of that level, and then I'm going to show you what I was looking at on the footprint. Okay, so let's clear this and let's go back to a footprint chart. Okay, just gonna move this out of the way. Okay, so now what I'm looking at here is that, again, as I mentioned, when we're creating these lower lows, now look how heavy that that is on the ask. There's a lot of volume. The volume wasn't low, and you can see that there was a lot of volume as well in here, right? There was some in this area and some in this area, but notice how the volume was getting a little bit lower, and then the buyers were very aggressive in this area as the shorts were aggressive here, right? Not as aggressive as the buyers actually, but once the market pushed into this area and they failed to hold it and to take it to break the high again, that was the opportunity that I was looking for, right? I'm looking for the market to now say, okay, the buyers couldn't push it up higher. They were aggressive. There was volume. It wasn't like it was light and they were waiting for a new price. So what happens is that now they're caught off sides. So for me, I want to take the short in this area. Now the shorts are in here. I want to see that area hold. And here, let me put this in a sort of like in a rectangle to show you specifically the area that I like to see hold. You see how the sellers are stacked in here. So once the buyers are trying to push it higher, they failed. We come down, we push into this area, and this is where I want to see it get broken down. I got it in the low side of this, and that's okay. I just wanted to see this area break it down. And as soon as they didn't continue to push it higher and the aggression went away, I mean, look what happens is you go straight down. Now again, a very aggressive move, but that was the opportunity, and that's what I was watching for. Is I wanted to see the buyers continue to be aggressive, but then not push and then get caught off sides, and then it reverses the other way. Okay, so remember that, right? It's like when you're using footprints, especially with the deltas, and I have another video that shows you exactly how to set this up. You should check that out. I'll make sure that we put it into the summary of this video. But when you have this information in front of you, make sure that you're not just taking any single trade. You want to use it with context. You probably want to have an area where you're looking for a long or a short, and you want to start following and start understanding, okay, well, where are the buyers, where are the sellers, you know, who's getting caught offside, where could the market go, and you're going to start seeing how it's going to improve your entries and it's going to improve your trades. At the very least, it'll reduce your risk, right? Because a lot of times what would happen is, if some folks would have gotten short, let's say in here and here, well, they're risking this entire thing, right? Which is quite a lot, especially if you're trading like ES or NQ. But for me, if we would have came back into this area, most likely I would have bailed out of the trade because I didn't want to see it come back into this area where buyers would have now probably continued to get more aggressive and push the market higher, right? So for me, it was a low risk trade with good reward. Okay. And all right, and I think that's it. Just wanted to review that trade. I did one thing that I did wanted to mention was that I did take a partial roughly around 07 and 06. As soon as it dropped down, that was probably a mistake. I should have let my trade go a little bit lower on the second contract. I didn't do that, and one of the reasons was because when it dropped, I didn't expect it to drop that quickly. Typically, when the market drops down very quickly or pushes up very quickly, it tends to reverse as well. So that's what I was kind of anticipating. It didn't do that, but I should have just let it go. Just a small little mistake, not a big deal. Still a good trade. I would take that trade, 10 times out of 10. So I hope this was informative. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Post in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them. If you want to see another video with Quantower or any specific trades, let me know. I'll be happy to do that. All right, guys, take care. Have a great day.